How's it going, everybody? Today I'm going to talk about another swim bait. This is the Gancraft 230. It's a Japanese bait. It's just kind of coming into the US market the last maybe year or so. This bait's kind of unique because it's a injected glide bait, kind of like a S-Waver, but this one's quite a bit more expensive. They're, $89 to $120 depending on where you actually purchase these. And they're kind of unique. I'm used to fishing resin glide baits like a Depths 250 or Hiroshima Customs, or even wooden glide baits and stuff like that, but this is the first big injected one I fished, and it definitely had its fair share of differences compared to the other ones. The action comparatively was much more, I'd say, stable. It didn't deviate from a standard, very predictable gliding action. It wasn't as conducive to reel pops. Mine right out of the package wasn't, at least untuned. So I'm going to show you guys what I did to make this bait. Actually, it ended up being a little bit better. So I was getting a lot of follows on this bait, and couldn't transition those fish to actually committing to the bait. They were just following it. That happens a lot with glide baits. All you guys who fish glides know that. And I watched a video a few months ago of a guy who said he widens the joint a little bit on these, and that was something that I ended up doing. I gotta admit, it wasn't like tuning a depths where you just change the weighting a little bit. It was weird to take a pocket knife and actually scrape away the edges of the joint of this, because there's no going back. You can't gain material after removing it. So all I did was walk down to the local lake, swim it a little bit, make really a mental note of how it was swimming, and started going to each side of the bait and just scraping off just a little bit from each side, a little shave of plastic where it was actually meeting the bait. And I do it to both sides, make sure it was even, and then all I did was I do that until I swam it, and I figured that's where I liked it. And it's hard to judge exactly how much I took off, but as you can see, there's kind of like a little line in the molding process, just a little bit in, and I actually fully removed that and went a little bit farther. Instead of the sides being rounded, they're almost a little bit more flattened. What I do is take a little bit off one side, take a little bit off the other side, and then at the end of the day, it sanded it down so it's smooth. One thing I noticed after I tuned that is the baits wanted to sit a little bit off kilter towards the tail. And it must be a really kind of a delicate balance on weighting on this injected bait, because the weight that it took to get that bait to actually keel down and sit level was one split ring. You could probably add the split ring off the hook and get a little bit more freedom of the hook. I just put it on the ring. Anyways, so that's what I did to tune this 230. I fished it for a few months and I was getting follows. I didn't get a single fish to commit to it, smallmouth and largemouth. And then probably within 30 minutes of widening the joint, I got a much more fluid action. I got better follows. The fish weren't following it from far back. They're right on it, nose is right behind it, and emulating the same action. Which, if you can get a fish to do that for long enough, it's going to hit it. I was just kind of on a close combat scenario where I couldn't actually get him to eat it. But probably 20 minutes into throwing this bait, I caught my first fish on the Gancraft, which is kind of startling to me, I guess, to go from a bait that I couldn't get bit on to tuning it and immediately having a lot better reaction. So that's how I did it. I've heard about it before. Maybe some of you guys have heard about it, maybe not. I wouldn't, fear not if you wanted to try it. It was really super straightforward. I didn't blow the bait out and make it do any weird stuff whatsoever. Just make sure you take into consideration that it's a plastic bait, and that if you're taking off material, you're not going to be able to get it back. So that's kind of how I tuned the Gancraft 230. It was super easy. Remove a little bit of material, tiny bit of weight to the head is all it took, and the action, instead of a real like turning left to right glide, goes more to a forward propelled, much more fluid gliding motion, and I really like that even in my Depths 250s. So hopefully this helps you guys out. If you guys have the Gancraft 230, it's a really impressive bait. Paint job's good. You can see it's got a good amount of hook rash on it now, and from what I can tell, it's quality. I'm excited to keep throwing it, and it's definitely a unique bait. So check it out. Thanks for viewing, and stay tuned for next week. Thanks.